Saeed Sevraday, the leading Asian rider, man from Iran. And the king of the mountain jersey, well, the stage winner from yesterday, Mario Aparicio. And he's been aggressive and he thoroughly deserves to wear the polka dot jersey. Henok Mulbrhan, well, he'll be happy that he's got the Sprint Ace green jersey, but he wants the jersey that he currently holds. He won the Tour last year by just a second. He's good enough. Will today be the time for Astana to make their move? So as usual, the usual procession out of town, waiting for the Chief Commissaire, Zach Prendergast, out of New Zealand, to drop the flag for stage 5 to get underway. It's a stage where if the majority of the peloton can stay together and survive the first 35 to 40 kilometers of climbing, the rest of it is downhill and then relatively flat with a nice downhill run into the finish here in the town of Qinghai. So that is how things stand at the moment. It is Jefferson Cepeda who leads this tour and leads it comfortably over Guillermo Silva. Henok Mulbrhan sitting back there in 5th. One rider that we should not underestimate either, who ended up losing this tour last year by just the 1 second. What a bike rider he is, Eric Fagundes. He is still capable. He hasn't had his best 2 days. He's won a stage. Will it be the turn of Burgos today? So that is the update. We are live now. So 82.7 kilometers remain. There is a group of 2 riders that lead this stage at the moment. 1 minute 35 back to the main group with the big hitters, including the yellow jersey holder of Jefferson Cepeda. Our 2 riders, Jelle Vermouth from the Bengal team, man who was born in Belgium and has been relatively quiet, will today be his day. Alongside of him, well, the man who won stage 2 last year, Nils Sinchek, riding for the Park Hotel Valkenburg team. Last year, that team was called Ablock. We know how good he is. We know how tough he is. And look at the magnificent vistas these 2 riders are currently enjoying. Are they enjoying? Well, maybe, maybe not, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is Lake Qinghai. The peloton, which has been, let's be fair, fragmented on that first climb. Just over 140 riders starting to today's stage, but probably around about 20 to 30 riders left in this main group, such as the brutality of this particular tour. And nice to see VF Group Bardiani on the front. Alongside of them, the rider from Team Corotech, who will be looking to try and maybe set the stage win up today if it does come together for their team captain, number 52, David Baldacchini. Also numbers in that bunch, the Median team, who have yet to really fire a shot. We know how good they are in the mountains, coming from Median in Colombia, so used to their head above the clouds. It is a brutal tour. It's about being patient. Will they look to maybe hit the main peloton, the other big teams in stages 6, 7 and 8 still to come. And just having a look at the stage there. As mentioned, first climb of the day came within 20 kilometres, 3,500 metres, the Yaku mountain. And then they've just gone up the Nanshan Lu Yaku climb at 12,200 feet above sea level, or 3,723 metres. And now they're on the descent. Now it's relatively flat through to the finish line here in Shihaijin. How organised will the peloton be? Are they happy for these two riders to go up the road? No real threat to the GC at the moment, with Nils Sinchik 15 minutes and 57 seconds back on GC, and Jelle Vermouth 6 minutes and 11 seconds down on GC. But you can now just see this peloton stretched out, one big long line. If it stays that way, you'd expect that break to come back to this peloton very quickly. And of course, we've seen a lot of effort because there are sprint ace points on the line. Still a few points left. It might have just been picked up there by the rider from Median. So now things will just slow down a little bit, and it'll be up to those top teams to decide whether or not they do want to go in pursuit of Jelle Vermouth or Nils Sinchik. It's been such a tough tour so far, 4 brutal stages. I just wonder whether the riders today might collectively buy in and go, look, let's just freshen up a little bit here. Let's just make this a sprinter stage. As we do just have a look over Qinghai Lake. It is the largest lake in China. It's classified as an alkaline salt lake, and I'm told that the lake has fluctuated in size, shrinking over much of the 20th century, but increasing in size since 2004. It has a surface area of 4,317 kilometres, an average depth of 21 metres and a maximum depth of 25.5 metres. It certainly is a spectacular region, sitting here at the moment at around about 11,000 feet. So altitude starts to impact or have an effect on the body at 2,000 feet. That's when the red blood cells start to look to regenerate and increase to allow the body to maximize its oxygen carrying ability. So you can imagine just how tough it is at this height for these riders. I do like Nils Sinchik. He's a big man. He's an aggressive bike rider. He was brilliant last year in winning stage 2. He's a rider who likes to take his chance. He backs himself, and you can just see there in his biggest gear. So he might just have a little bit of a tailwind behind them or on a slight downhill. So just 53 or 54 teeth on the front on that big chainring, probably 11 teeth on the smallest one of the cogs at the back for non-cycling aficionados, which gives them a gear ratio of 54:11, potentially 53:11. Some might have a slightly smaller chainring on the front, but it's all about gear ratios. And the biggest cog on the back there is the one they'll use for climbing. The smallest one is the one they'll use for power. One key thing here that they do need to make sure they do is eat and drink, and they're very, very well versed in that area. And it's not always the easiest thing to do. but it's an absolute necessity. If you start to get hungry, well, the time you drink and eat is probably going to be a little bit too late. It's a sport where you can feel bulletproof one moment and find yourself sitting in the gutter not long after, if you don't stay on top of the hydration and the nutrition, keep that calorie count up. And again, it'll come down to the individual and their own personal choice in regards to what they have in their drink bottles in terms of the type of food they do want to take on board, whether it be gels, whether it be more solid. But also know when to eat and drink. Certainly don't want to be eating when heart rate's through the roof. And you can just see here some real urgency from the peloton. So that gap is coming down 1 minute 10. So Jelle Moot out of Belgium and Nilsenchik out of the Netherlands. At some point might just come into the side of the peloton, which will give them a bit of a... But it is the Kaha Rural team on the front with their man in the yellow jersey. And he was superb, Jefferson Cepeda, taking that yellow jersey from Manueli to Rossi. And couldn't really understand why VF Group Bardiani didn't maybe do a little bit more on the front of the peloton to shut the break down yesterday. Some people suggested that with still 4 really arduous days left in the tour, they didn't really want the responsibility, and perhaps they felt that there was a stage still to come where they can do what they did yesterday, or what they did 2 days ago, and still put Manueli to Rosie in the yellow jersey by the end of the tour. Here is Henok mulbrhan, the defending champion, the man who last year rode for the Bardiani team, ironically, but off the back of some very good performances, signed with the World Tour team Astana, and is now looking to try and go back-to-back. The best all-round rider in the peloton. Makes some real help on day 2, where the Burgos team, led by Eric Fagundes, basically beat him up. Fagundes went on and won the stage and got himself into the yellow jersey. And then again, it was stage 3 that Burgos were a little bit disappointing, and you just wonder whether or not they'd recovered. But nobody can deny this man here, Mario Aprizio. He pretty much led yesterday's stage from start to finish, ended up winning it, meant a lot to him. Was very aggressive in stage 2 as well on one of the big climbs, maybe to the surprise of his teammates. But it worked out okay in stage 2 because they ended up winning it through Eric Fagundes. So numbers 43 and 46 sitting there on the front is Samuel Fernandez, and 46 is Jochen Mugide. Mugide has been absolutely outstanding in terms of doing the work required of him. Here is what they call rapeseed, this famous yellow flower that just, well, really just presents this beautiful canvas of this region of China. You can see that peloton coming together. There was always a suggestion today that it would just come down to a big sprint finish, and I wonder whether we are going to see that, which will then open the door very much for the likes of David Baldacchini, who has the ability, Enrico Zanincello out of VF Bardiani. Of course, if Jensen Plowright finds himself in that main peloton, the man from Alpecin de Koenig who won stage 1, the Australian, well, he's certainly got the ability to win the second stage as well. Might just be the best sprinter in the peloton. It looks very much like the majority of the riders are together now, and you do just sense that with 71 kilometres to go, this break of Nilsenchik, Jelle van Moot will come back to the group, and then it's a game of cat and mouse, and what other riders then look to try and go up the road, and can the next break or the next attack possibly force the peloton to wave the white flag and go, you know what, we're happy where we are. We don't want to burn too many matches today, but a really nice tempo being set here by this Kaha Rural team. predominantly a Spanish outfit. They do have Guillermo Silva, who has been brilliant so far throughout this tour. The man who was born in Uruguay, just 22 years of age. And just sitting back on there, we saw Evert de Keyser from Tartaleto Exorex. He has been a very, very aggressive rider. He has been a very busy rider. And just looking back there too, moving up now, we've got Sen Leeson from Alpecin de Koenig, number 12. No sign yet of Jensen Plowright, number 14. So the problem with these long, long stretches of road, it does give the peloton a target. It does give them an opportunity, something to chase. And they will just be chucking it down, hoping for just a little bit of confusion in the peloton, that teams decide that they don't want to go on the front, they don't want the work. I mean, at the end of the day, these two riders are not going to affect the overall GC. They're not riders who are going to take the yellow jersey off the shoulders of Jefferson Cepeda or potentially challenge the likes of Henok mulbrhan or the likes of Manueli Torozzi. It's hard to believe with the lake there in the background that we're well above 10,000 feet here. Most of the way 12,000 feet, so the oxygen is thin. Tough enough sport at sea level, let alone with your head above the clouds. Again, you can just sort of see that critical mass in the middle, just a really good example of how the peloton works and just how much easier it is when you're sitting in the middle of the peloton versus those riders on the front. Get a bit of a free ride up to about 30% drag coefficient, so that is the amount of energy you can save. Swimming is probably a sport that at times can have a similar effect. If you get on the feet of another swimmer, you can get dragged along, as we just go back to the king of the mountains. And Nils Sinchik picking up maximum points. And Jelle van Moot more than happy for Sinchik to take those points. And there would be the Frenchman from Burgos, Clement Lenot, who would end up picking up 3 points. Erdenbach, the man from Mongolia too, and Henok mulbrhan picking up an extra point as well. Still in contention for that polka dot jersey, the defending champion. And a bit of a scramble here. And then we do see Mario Aprizio looking to try and maximise the remaining points on the second of the King of the Mountain climbs to stay in that polka dot jersey. So interesting to see Nils Sinchik, just how high he's got that seat post. So smaller frame, but really maximising seat post height. He is a tall man. They will go through a lot of physiological testing, and then they'll go through a lot of technical testing with their bike setups and what is the best setup. Well, ultimately the best setup is probably the most comfortable one, certainly when you're having to endure a race like this. And I'll tell you what, the locals here do spend a lot of time in terms of welcoming the riders and selling this part of the China to the rest of the world. It is genuinely a stunning part of the world in northern China, up on the Tibetan Plateau. And so, nice, easy, good discussion going on here. Good to see Astana there with Anton Kuzmin alongside of the yellow jersey leader, Jefferson Cepeda. Of course, Astana riding for their man, Henok mulbrhan. Vadim Pronsky, Santiago Umba, absolutely superb in the third stage of the tour after probably what Henok mulbrhan would probably have described as a pretty poor effort from his team on stage 2. I just wonder whether the stage winner, we will mention, generally the sprinters will just sit back, we won't talk too much about them, they'll grab it on the line, take all the glory. That is the sport of cycling. It's a little bit of everything. So every type of rider, as we just go above here and have a look at this magnificent region. nomadic type farmers. Real sort of Mongolian feel about the place as well. So a real eclectic mix of cultures. But a region that very much celebrates its Chinese culture. Good crowd just gathering at the finish line in the city of Qinghai, where we are situated. As we now just go back in here and have a look at the form of Jelle Vermont, the Belgian rider. Nice looking bike rider, nice tuck position. Nice high cadence. He'll be what we call a high aerobic state. So he'll be uncomfortable, but still being able to hold a conversation. Bordering on what we call lactate threshold, where the body starts to burn a little bit more. And you can just see right on that line there, you just get the feeling there with Nilsson Schick. He's enjoying just that little bit of a draft, just enough to bring the heart rate down, just enough to have a little bit of recovery before you come back through and take your turn. So interesting setup there from Jelle Vermont. Not quite the deep rim carbon wheels that perhaps other riders have. And look at that, yeah, beautiful pedal cadence and got that lovely circular motion, almost like when you come through on that pedal stroke, it's almost like you're just scraping mud off the forefoot. Scraping mud off on a step using the forefoot and just pulling through. Circular motion. And Qinghai Lake there in the background, and as I said, that is what they call rapeseed up here. Very prevalent. Just enhances the whole landscape. Team vehicles there in the background. Opportunity if riders do need to drop back, pick up drink bottles. There will be those domestics whose job will be to go back and pick up drink bottles and food for other riders in the team. Of course, they're not allowed to sit too far behind the vehicles on the way back. They'll be judged on that by the different commissaires and technical referees and some of the cars. Just to get pulled back up as we have a look at, well, one of the famous yak up here in this part of the world. It really is such a unique part of the world. And so these two doing a good job here. Just back down to about a minute 12. Now it's gone back out to a minute 50. So they have really in time trial position now. Can they sustain it though? Still 63.4 kilometers to go. It is one long stretch of road. Now, certainly spectacular from a helicopter point of view, certainly spectacular for everybody at home watching this, but it'll feel a little bit like no man's land. It'll feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, that every kilometre is going to feel a little bit like the last kilometre, sometimes to break up the head game, to make things just a little bit easier mentally, is just having a difference in visual stimulation. This is going to be constant for a little bit. Even sometimes just having that little bit of a climb to break it up. But here come the Kaha Rural boys on the front, 4 of them. Their team leader sitting there, 5th wheel, doing a really comfortable job is Mario, is Jefferson Cepeda. The Astana boys there, happy to maybe come through at some point, work for their man, Henok mulbrhan, who sits there in the green jersey, the man out of Eritrea in Africa. And Elvis and Kernick just sitting back there comfortably. Having a good ride also. Number 217 there is Josh Kench, the young New Zealander. Last year a member of Black Spoke Racing, the New Zealand trade team that just financially ended up falling over. A number of their riders now spread out across these other teams, including Luke Mudgway, who's been a contender for the green jersey, riding for Li Ning Star. 31 different countries represented in this year's tour of Qinghai Lake. And great to have the World Tour of the World Tour teams here in Alpecin-de-Koning and Astana, Kazakhstan. Be interesting to see if there are just a little bit of a crosswind perhaps. there is Mario Aparicio, the polka dot jersey, riding for Burgos. 2 stage wins for Burgos so far of the 4 stages. First day was won by Jensen Plowright out of Australia, and wasn't he delighted for Alpecin de Koenig. And then stage 2 was won by Eric Fagundes. Stage 3, what a performance it was too from Manuele Torozzi from VF Group Bardiani. He was one of 6 riders in the break. There were 3 representatives from Kaha Rural in the break, 2 from Astana, and he found a way to basically bluff all of them and win the stage and take the yellow jersey. And then yesterday, it was again a stage victory for Burgos to Mario Aparicio. Not just a stage victory, but also put him into the polka dot jersey. And while Burgos won the battle, it was Kaha Rural who won the war, because Jefferson Cepeda, part of that break, moved into the yellow jersey. And they also have Guillermo Silva sitting in second on GC, a minute 50 back. And then it is Mario Aparicio, a minute 52 back out of Burgos, as we mentioned, in the polka dot. And then Manuele Torozzi, the leader of the race, heading into stage 4, is 220 back. The other big names, Eric Fagundes is 422 back, and Henok mulbrhan 2 minutes 29 back. So all the big hitters still certainly in contention with this stage and 3 further stages to come. And one of those stages, the athletes and riders will go above 13,000 feet. Well, when it is strung out and the crosswinds are up, it's affectionately known as the pain train. Well, it's not really that painful for most of those riders today. There'll be 1 or 2 on the front having to do the work. That'll be the heart rate reasonably high, but the rest of the peloton sitting there pretty comfortable, holding conversations. All the teams mic'd up, have radio contact back to their team vehicles. And so now out to 2 minutes and 5 seconds, but still 60 kilometres of racing to go. So in about an hour 15, I'd imagine they're sitting somewhere at the moment between 45 and 50 kilometres an hour. And this was the sprint ace points up for grabs. Maybe a bit of a discussion here, because we saw Nils Sinchink be given the King of the Mountain points, and Nils Sinchink happy to give Jelle van Moot the sprint points. And then it was Vilmar Paredes out of Median who picked up the other point on offer. Jelle van Moot will also pick up a 3-second time bonus. And just dropping back and doing the job probably asked of him today, and looking pretty comfortable indeed, is number 122, Sardar Deep. Man who is of Turkish origins, riding for Sport Toto cycling team, and a team that is complete, is a Turkish team. a continental tour team, so sort of third tier, but still at an incredibly high level. And as we mentioned, it's a sport now that is truly global. It used to be sort of more of a traditional European sport of cycling. Then the Americans sort of came along in the 80s, and now we're starting to see riders like Qinghai out of Eritrea, Henok Mulbrhan, first two African riders to really establish themselves. More and more Asian riders starting to make their way to the fore and the front of the pelotons, and of course always been strong representative out of Oceania, the likes of Australia, likes of New Zealand. I'm just looking back there in the background, just think that these riders at around 12,000 feet does make you wonder just how high the mountains in the background are. They will go above 13,000 feet in the stages coming. But doing a nice job, the two of them. Good communication. Need to look after each other. It's in their best interests. So there we go, 45 kilometres an hour. That's coming uphill too. So that just gives you a really good idea of just how hard they are riding. That is on an uphill stretch. So what they call false flag. And just see the peloton in the distance there, just starting to come around the corner. Now, that is a reasonably long stretch of road. And again, it is uphill here, so can be somewhat deceiving. But that peloton will have a target now. They will be able to just see the two cars in front, and that will give them incentive to want to continue to chase. As we mentioned, one of the aspects of this particular part, or this particular stage, is a lot of the roads are just long. They're not necessarily twisting and turning. There's not a lot of trees or plant life that can block the view of the chasing group. As Henok Mulbrhan and the peloton there comes to the front and does a little bit of work. And now we do see the Astana team going to the front. That's just a lovely shot, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. Tucked in there. Might just be today's stage winner. Or will it be Milsinchik or Jelle van Moot? Will it be a day for the Netherlands? Will it be a day for Belgium? I'd imagine that the people of the Netherlands are somewhat mourning with their exit out of the European Cup at a semi-final level, getting beaten by England 2-1 in what was an incredibly exciting game of football. Certainly dominating the first half, the Netherlands dominating the second half, and always a level of contention in football when it comes to the penalties and VAR. But maybe, just maybe today, Milsinchik can give his country, the Netherlands, something to smile about as he looks to try and win his second stage in the Tour of Qinghai Lake. Of course, he won stage 2 last year. Oh, Henok Mulbrhan, not happy. He's asking guys to come through. He says, look, no responsibility from anyone else. And this is great, isn't it? Wonderful animation. I mean, all these riders are afraid. They're all a little, let's be honest, the most rational people can come irrational under a little bit of duress. That is the Sport Toto cycling team, this Turkish team. Certainly not happy with maybe the way the race has been ridden, or perhaps the tempo that has been set. Now we see the Alpecin de Koenig team also coming to the front. Jensen Plough right there, sprinter, won stage 1. If he's back in the peloton, he's certainly got the ability to win his second stage here. We go back through. We might just see if we can pick up Jensen Plowright, number 14. The Median team sitting there in the black and the white, and there he is, Saeed Savraday, out of Iran. The Tayyid Hotel team, a Thai-based professional trade team. We've got Mashovsa Sertse, the Polish team. We haven't seen a lot of them so far. And now just a minute 25 between the Peloton and these two escapees. It's been a good effort. They're just going to hope that there's a little bit of confusion, and we did just see earlier a little bit of argy-bargy or verbal argy-bargy. I'm not sure if that's a terminology the whole world's particularly familiar with, but certainly in my part of the world basically means a little bit of niggle between some of the different trade teams, and the only riders that's benefiting are the two out in front, Nil Sinchik and Jelle van Moot. Great to see so much of the natural wildlife here in Qinghai Lake. As I said, it's the largest lake in China in the Qinghai province. As we go back to the front of the Peloton, the old pain train, it's the Burgos boys now in purple coming through to do some work, and they're also joined by Team Coritek, who will be wanting to try and set the stage up for David Baldacchini or Attilo Viviani. Lorenzo Cortucci, possibly the rider on the front, Alpecin de Koenig. So now there is collective buy-in, and here come that Turkish outfit of Sport Toto cycling team. Just see the grimace on the face. Just how much harder it is the front of the Peloton when you're having to face the wind. And now Park Hotel Valkenburg. I think they're just going to, interesting to know what their tactics are, because Nil Sinchik is the rider up the road. They just may be looking to soft pedal a little bit when they do come back through to the front, just to try and slow some of the momentum down on that chase group. I can't imagine that they're in hot pursuit. They're more than happy for their rider to get away, allow the other teams to do the work. Another little flick of the elbow, which is the international cycling sign of come through, do some work. Just not sure at the moment Jelle van Moot has the ability to do it. And there you go, just giving you an idea that getting up to around that 11,000 feet still, just over 43 kilometres an hour, possibly just a little bit of a breeze or a slight uphill here. These riders more than capable of riding high into the late 40s as a duo in perfect conditions, probably above 50k an hour if it was absolutely idyllic, flat. Look, a bit of a split there in that chase group too. Imagine it will come back together though. Very, very lucky that the environmental conditions are in their favour. And look, now there is a significant break here on this little climb. So Alpecin de Koenig deciding to come through, and there goes the team from Team Coritek. And our race leader in yellow, you do not see the race leader in yellow very often coming to the front when he's defending the jersey. He will be asking his teammates to do that job. And the Gaha Rural boys are there in numbers. Now Henok mulbrhan goes to the front. Just see them rolling through. So maybe just a little bit of a crosswind. You can just start to see the stagger there. There is the head commissaire, Zach Prendergast, out of New Zealand. He'll be just monitoring things too, keeping an eye on the race, making sure it's a fair race. Sitting back there too in that main group is the man who won this tour back in 2017, Jonathan Monsalve. Here you can see the crosswind. So what we've got is we've got a wind coming from right to left. That's why you've got the staggers. The rider at the front on the left-hand side of the road is facing the wind. He's doing the work. Everybody else is just trying to get their front wheel to the right of the rider in front of them, just halfway up the back wheel, if that makes some sense. So that's where you get the stagger formation, just trying to get your front wheel of your bike just up alongside the back wheel of the rider in front of you on the opposite side of the wind direction. And now we are just starting to see a bit of chaos and carnage. We've got 3 echelons. And one of the best ways of ultimately putting everybody in the hurt box is go across to the other side of the road and put everybody in the gutter. Don't give them your back wheel. Don't give them the opportunity to stagger. And it looks like these 2 riders' day is going to come to an end very shortly, because the peloton, or the first of the pelotons, or the first chase group, are going to swallow them up. And I really think now it's probably just a case of sitting back, eating, and they've done the right thing. And that's pretty much waving the white flag there. Really good effort, though, from Nils Sinchik and Jelle van Moot. And certainly given their sponsors and their team naming right partners a little bit of global television time, which is always important in a pretty tough economic environment globally at the moment in a sport. So now Jelle van Moot and Nils Sinchik will look to find their place in this echelon. And Kaha Rural go back to the front, driving. This is really the pain train now. This does hurt when you've got the crosswinds. This is tough. If they were to turn right, suddenly that would be a tailwind. If they were to turn left, it would become a headwind. At the moment, it's just a nasty crosswind. And Henok Mulbrhan of Astana, though, happy to show his colours, happy to show just how tough he is. And that crosswind has certainly split the peloton apart. And now we do see the Burgos boys go to the front in the purple. And let's just see if we can get a bit of a gap here. How this looks on the road between the different groups. Yeah, that is a significant gap now. You can just see the echelon formation of the chase group, just how tough that is. That might just be Jensen Plowright, the winner of stage 1, on the front there for Alpecin de Koning. There is the yellow jersey. What a ride from him yesterday. Absolutely superb with Jefferson Cepeda. This Kaha Rural team have really just dominated this race over the last couple of stages. Burgos are there in the purple. We do see the rider sitting probably about 10 back in the red with the black pants. And that is the Marszowska Serce team out of Poland. And now the Bengal boys coming through as well in the bright fluorescent colours. Very much a team of the United Nations with riders out of Switzerland, Italy, Belgium. And it is the rider now from Marszowska Serce looking to maybe just attack. Not really sure what the tactic is here, unless he just feels that perhaps he can encourage 1 or 2 to go with him. Maybe he just felt that it was just starting to get a little bit disorganised. If we can see the second group there on the road, desperately trying to bridge the gap. I'm not sure that camera angle there, I think the camera angle maybe makes it look a little bit closer than perhaps it is. This will give us a much better idea. Great shots coming from the helicopter. Okay, so this is starting to close up here. It's going to close up quickly by the looks of it. And we're going to be back to one big group, one big peloton. And when it does come in these crosswinds and these tricky conditions, does anybody have the ability to go up the road on their own? Look at that gnarly little wind that is coming from right to left, across the left shoulders of the riders. That's where we see the stagger. Everybody just desperately trying to push across to the right-hand side of the road, with the riders in front basically taking the wind. Yeah, just again, really surprised to see the yellow jersey leader on the front, Jefferson Cepeda. He's got numbers in the group. Just trying to pick up the rider there from Elpersen-Dekoning. Is that Jensen Plowright? He struggles in the climbs. If he's managed to get over the climbs today, he's done incredibly well, because they had some brutal climbs to go through. Through the first 20 kilometres, they went up to 3,500 metres up the Yaku mountain. It peaked out at 3,548, so 11,640 metres above sea level. Then they had some undulations before reaching the height of 12,200 metres up the Nanshan Lao Yaku mountain. And now this flat area, well, it's around 10,600 feet above sea level. And the crosswinds forcing a bit of chaos and carnage. The gap is coming down. The group will come together, you expect, at some point. Now, moving to the front. Are we seeing the Astana boys? The riders for Henok mulbrhan. Sitting there at 105 is still Big Nils Sinchik, who was in that break. In the green and black top of Park Hotel Valkenburg. Purple is Burgos. Got the 2017 winner of this tour, Jonathan Monsalve of Tianude Hotel Cycling Team. There in sort of the red and white colours, almost look like the national colours of Switzerland sitting on the back. And now the rider again from Maszowska Serce, the Polish team. Being joined by Team Korotek. They're looking to try and set the stage one up, possibly today, for Attilio Viviani, David Baldacchini. And now they start to come into an area here, almost looks a little bit like southern France. Still that little gap. But only a matter of time, really, before we come one again. But still plenty of opportunity, with just over 40 kilometres remaining, for somebody to go up the road and maybe write another chapter on what has been so far an exciting day of racing, but really just been such an exciting tour. The scary thing is 3 more big days in the mountains. They go up above 13,000 feet in the days coming. Median team there in the black and the white. About 2/3 of the way down this lead group. Haven't yet fired a shot. Got some big hitters. Have the potential to still grab this tour. They were very aggressive last year. The likes of Victor Ocampo and Vilmar Paredes. He was superb. Wore the yellow jersey at one point in stage during the 2023 edition. And now Elpersen-Dekoning going to the front. And suddenly, with that little change in road direction, no longer the crosswind. So suddenly they go from that echelon formation back to a more traditional one long line. Looks like a left-hand turn, so just be a little bit of a block headwind at the moment, or possibly a tailwind. Certainly not the crosswind we've just seen. And now somebody looking to try and attack, and I think it is going up the road. So maybe pick up some sprint points. Henok mulbrhan desperately looking to try and stay in charge, and that was the lead out ride. So that's a really, really good performance here coming from Astana, setting up certainly valuable sprint haste points to keep Henok mulbrhan in the green jersey. That was the reason for the aggression from Astana off the front. Imagine that possibly Anton Kuzmin might have been the lead out man. Vadim Pronsky. And now the games are over and everybody's just saying, look, settle down. Who decides to attack now? A little bit of a split back again in the peloton. And once again, Maszowska, Sertse, the Polish team there in the red and the black, buying into it. And I just wonder whether Ander Okamaika from Burgos, this big tall figure in the purple, has just sat up. What an absolute warrior he is. How tough is he? He has been superb. You want somebody who's prepared to bury themselves? Well, he's your guy. And look at that. Yeah, it certainly paces on now. Imagine well above 50 kilometres an hour. So I think what was a crosswinds now looks like it's become very much tailwind. And that's just how fortunes can change. To suddenly turn right or left again, they'd be back into a crosswind. So it's just over 40 kilometres remaining. Just looking at the profile of today's stage, there are still just a couple of little undulations to come. Another sprint still left. It will come just over the 100-kilometre mark. And just a couple of niggly little rises. Drove through this stage yesterday, and it's almost got a sort of feeling of like the Sahara Desert. And that has just been the incredible part of this race. You go just, the landscape's just constantly changing. It's just so unique. You could put yourself in a number of different parts of the world. And so we've got now, interesting, here we go. So Astana, Kazakhstan have gone up the road. Now Henok mulbrhan, maybe team orders have come through and said, look, just slow things down. We need you. We've got some big days to come. And our team leader, Henok mulbrhan, the defending champion, will need you to keep your matches and your powder dry. Don't burn too many matches. And now the Tartaleta Azorex team there in the yellow, sort of orange and purple. The big hitters from yesterday are there too. Mario Aparicio from Burgos in the polka dot. Jefferson Cepeda in the yellow jersey. And really good idea. Now to see if we can pick up number 12 anywhere in that group. Yeah, in fact it is. So yeah, we can see 12 just out to the left in the opposite to Koenig colours. And also number 14. So it's 14 in the group from Elstersund to Koenig. It's Jensen Plough right there. He is the one that potentially could win this stage. I think he might just be sitting there next to his man, next to his lead-out rider, and Leeson. So wouldn't they love to just grab a second stage victory after winning the first stage, the opening stage in the city of Zinning, which was 120 kilometres. It was 8 laps of 15 kilometres, basically, a criterium-type format. Just dropping back through to pick up drinks and a little bit of nutrition himself. Part of the Bardiani team, who were in yellow yesterday through Manuele Tarosi. And so Filippo Magli, his way back onto the peloton. Might just be a little bit of a headwind here at the moment. Generally just spread across the road. No one really wanting to face it. As again, we see Maszowska Serce rider out of Poland. But Kaha Rural perhaps might just decide to keep at such a steady pace. And now just seen a little bit of an attack there. It looked like coming from Tian Uday Hotel, possibly Josh Kench, number 217. Of course, the 2017 winner, Jonathan Monsalve, also part of that group. And dropping back to get a bit of a feed too is Maurice Bellenstadt, another Belgian rider for Alpecin de Koning. Possibly picking up a few more team instructions. Just moving down the outside of the peloton. Looking ominous, Tartaleta Azorex. Looking to ride for Timothy DuPont, who won 2 stages in last year's tour of Qinghai Lake. Won stage 1, the opening stage, and also stage 8, which ended up being a really, really dramatic stage, because heading into stage 8 last year, it was Eric Fagundes from Burgos who had a 2-second lead over Henok mulbrhan. A break got up the road, which didn't involve those 2 riders. It was Bardiani who ended up winning it. In the main group, Henok mulbrhan ended up winning the sprint. But he also won the sprint by 2 seconds over Eric Fagundes. Burgos felt that everybody should have been given the same time, because all the bonus time and top 10 spots had all been picked up already. They determined that in fact it wasn't a bunch finish, and Henok mulbrhan ended up winning the tour by 1 second. And it was, in hindsight, it was probably the right decision. And it was a very, very intelligent ride from Henok mulbrhan. Nils Inchik, winner of stage 2 last year, was in the break for most of today. Just sitting back now and eating, drinking, trying to recover. Maybe he'll have another attack. He's a very, very aggressive bike rider. You can just see the road in front. It's another little climb coming. So another opportunity just to press a little harder on the pedals, just see if they can stretch a few riders. This might just buy into the hands of the more time trial type bike rider rather than the pure climber. It's not a climb that it's going to dictate to you, and therefore body weight becomes important. This is a climb that all of the riders can control. Anything above 7%, and then you're starting to really get into, well, I'm a little bit too big, he's a lighter body weight, he's going to climb a little bit better. Some might say that that threshold is about 6% in terms of gradient. But some climbs will suit the bigger power riders, and certainly, well, the big steep climbs, well, anybody sort of below 60 kilograms is probably going to benefit, as we do see Alpecin de Koning on the front, along with Kaha Rural, the holders of the yellow jersey. Really, is it just a simple case now of just keeping the pace on up front, which makes it very difficult for one rider to go out on their own and then manage to stay and maintain it. If you have just joined us, the first part of today's stage, pretty brutal. The stage started in Gonghu and finishes ultimately shortly in Shihaijin. But in the first 20 kilometers, they started at 2,800 meters, went straight up to 3,500 meters, and then continued to climb up the Nashan Lao Yaku mountain, which was 3,723 meters or 12,200 feet above sea level. And they've spent much of this stage above 11,000 feet. They're currently sitting at 10,600 feet above sea level. As mentioned earlier, oxygen well, altitude kicks in at 2,000 feet. So that's when the body does start to adapt, starts to produce red blood cells to make the adjustment for the lack of oxygen, to compensate for the lack of oxygen. Of course, they say that 21 days at altitude is where you're going to gain the greatest gain if you are looking for altitude as a means of enhancing performance for races perhaps at sea level. These days, they say live high, train low. And if you are going to train at high altitudes, then you need to do everything fairly aerobically. Just having a look at those temperatures, 15 degrees. It's southeast wind direction. There has been just a little bit of light rain here at the finish line, but still relatively mild. So still just maybe a little bit of crosswind there, coming from right to left as you're looking at it. So across the left shoulder of the riders. Start to just see that little bit of a stagger formation again. There is Henok mulbrhan in the green jersey, just sitting back in about the third row. Elperson to Qinghai coming to the front. Probably at this point, Elperson to Qinghai realising that Jensen Plowright potentially could win the stage. Let's just go to the front. Let's make sure that we keep that tempo up. Let's prevent anybody from going up the road. We're happy to take our chances in the sprint. We believe we've got the best guy. Also just sitting back there, VF Group Bardiani. In yellow yesterday, stage 4 Manuele Tarossi, the Italian. There are those team colours, the aqua blue of the VF Group Bardiani team. Number 63 is Filippo Magli. And there is our King of the Mountain leaders, Mario Aparicio, riding for Burgos. Number 144, Torsten Demier, riding for Tartalito Azorax. And number 32, Eric Fagundes is just tucked back in, had the yellow jersey after on day 3. Struggled and really struggled in the big mountains, probably to the surprise of most of us. Such a big reputation, rode the Giro d'Italia this year, and some would say probably deserved to win this tour last year. As we just go back and have a look at the sprint here, nice lead out for Henok mulbrhan by his fellow team rider, and I think might have been Anton Kuzman, picking up those valuable sprint ace points that also bring a time bonus with them. And there it is. So, yeah, Guillermo and Jensen Plowright. So Plowright is there. So Plowright, does he win his second stage? He's just sort of middle of the picture at the moment, sitting back, white helmet, sitting behind a rider from Kaha Rural in his blue colours of Elperson de Koning. Just coming up this little climb. Everybody seems pretty comfortable. A lot of riders just getting out of their seat, just trying to use a slightly different muscle group, trying to give their body any little bit of relief from that seated position. And again, a lot of riders will train their system to be able to climb for long periods out of their seat. It is more natural for most riders to stay seated. But like anything, if you train it well enough, you can become very, very efficient. And it's nice to be able to stay seated. It's nice to be able to go long periods out of your seat, slightly different muscle groups as mentioned in a tour like this or in an individual stage that is that long. It's all about just trying to not burn too many matches. It's all about economy. Trying to hold on to the talent that you've given for as long as you can. So we're coming through this, what almost looks like a desert region now of this Qinghai province. Just constantly changing landscapes. We've got a bit of a split too. A number of riders look like they possibly have fallen off the back just coming up that climb. So now Alpecin de Koning happy just to sit on the front and drive the train. Try and just keep this together for the next 30 kilometres. As mentioned, sitting in the back of that peloton up to about a 30% less energy used. Some might even say more. So those athletes on the front had a really high, hard, not quite threshold, high aerobic state. So not too far in terms of a heart rate that gets to the point where the lactic acid starts to build up. Those riders sitting in the middle of it, well, some of them not even pedaling, just getting sucked along, just enjoying the free ride, just enjoying maybe some of the sights. But interesting too to see Team Corotech now just coming to the front as well in the yellow with the crimson tops. I'll be looking to maybe set this up for Viviani or their team leader, David Baldacchini, for the stage win. Group of 5 or 6 riders just having fallen off the back there. Now desperately just trying to get back on. They should get back on. You can just see that main peloton. It's got reasonable diameter from left to right, which says the pace is no longer on. Now look at some of the stunning scenery here. So that is the largest lake in China, folks. The Lake Qinghai. Largest lake in China. It's got, there's going off the front, no surprise here, under Okamika, the big man from Burgos has decided to attack. Just felt perhaps, let's just put a little bit of heat, a little bit of pressure back in. Can he take 1 or 2 riders with him? Can they get away here? While the rest of the peloton maybe have falsely believed that perhaps everybody's buying into just one big group sprint finish. And he's going to attack on the downhill too. This is really gutsy and courageous. You know, most people think that you attack on the uphills, but you can also hit a peloton hard or hit others on the downhill as well. 2, they'd love to get a group of 4 and try and get away. Immediately, Astana rider jumps straight onto the wheel of Burgos. Second of the Astana riders looking to possibly come across as well. A flick of the elbow says come through. Astana are saying no, we're not going to come through. I'm just going to act as a little bit of a policeman. If you want to go on your own, if you want to get out there and confuse ability with ambition, you go for it. It might be a bit tough using that line, confusing ability with ambition, but purely mean it in regards to where we are in the stage and the amount of effort that's been put in by everybody so far. And immediately swallowed up. 2 riders, 2 still out in front. Now, do we see Astana look to try and come through here? Well, they're just picking up the bonus sprint points now. And so number 34 there under Okamika. What a bike rider. And number 6 there, Santiago Umba, the man who was so prominent on day 3 in terms of really closing the gap for Henok Mulbrhan and beating up Eric Fagundes and the Burgos boys who had beaten him up the day before. And so Santiago Umba, a man born in Colombia, 21 years of age, just a youngster. has finished second previously in a stage of the Tour of Rwanda. Won a stage in the Tour of Elsay. Arm going up. So it is boys from Turkey. Just needing a little bit of recovery, a little bit of fuel for this last 26 kilometres through to the finish line. And that break has come back. And so they sit up, grab a little bit of a drink. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Again, more discussion. Throws the drink bottle away, basically, towards the peloton. Fortunately, nobody does come down. And now, immediately, Park Hotel Valkenburg. Would not be surprised if this again is Nils Sinchik. Just such an aggressive bike rider. Boy, in the break for most of today. There's the big man gone again. He did it on stage 2 last year. He ended up winning the stage. Yes, stage 2 last year was in fact stage 3 this year. And that day, it was big Nils Sinchik, who got into a break with Anton Stensby from Team Coop, the Austrian trade team that are not here this year. Vilmar Paredes out of Team Median. And those three got away, and it was Sinchik who ended up actually winning that stage by 3 seconds over Stensby, and Paredes out of Team Median was also 3 seconds back. And then Eric Zanoncello from Green Project Bardiani, which this year races under the VF Group Bardiani team, ended up finishing 4th. Now, another attack here from Burgos down the left-hand side of the peloton, or the right-hand side as we look at it. And so a group of riders looking to try and come across here. So Tartalito Azurix look like they've got a rider in that. Tianude Hotel Cycling Team, possibly Jonathan Monsalve, the winner of this tour back in 2017. And 2 riders too sitting on the back there from Astana. And so the Crosswinds just starting to still play a little bit of havoc here, so there's still an opportunity. Again, that breeze coming from our right to left, their left to right. So Astana on the front, and VF Group Bardiani sitting there, second wheel. Jonathan Monsalve, winner in 2:17. There's also got New Zealander Josh Kench back in the main peloton. It just looks like a little bit of fun and games at the moment. I'm not sure that it's significant. I'm not sure they're going to get up the road. But I do expect to see a little bit more of this. It's really up to VF Group Bardiani and Kaha Rural and to just set a tempo on the front. Or if the likes of Elpison de Koenig believe that today is another opportunity for Jensen Plowright, they just need to go to the front and maintain a pretty strong tempo, control the peloton, set it up for the sprint. Don't underestimate this man either in that sprint, Henok mulbrhan. He is the complete bike rider, folks. One of 2 world-class riders out of Eritrea. He is currently also the Continental African champion. Good crowd at the finish line waiting here in the town or city of Shihaijin. move away from the lake, start to take a little bit of a right-hand turn, and that crosswind should end up becoming more of a tailwind. Interesting to see the different wildlife here. So the lake is located at the crossroads of several bird migration routes across Asia. We're told that many species use Qinghai Lake as an immediate stop during migration. Also, there are 5 native fish species. So it is Elpis and de Koenig who do come to the front now. There they are, Jensen Plowright, the last of the Elpis and Koenig. So one, if you go from right to left, he is the 4th rider, winner of stage 1. Might just be the best sprinter in the peloton. I think the race leader there, Jefferson Cepeda, he'll be more than happy to spend another night in yellow. It was never going to be a stage that was going to require his climbers to do a lot of defending. Everybody felt that this was probably the one stage where we might just see a bit of a bunch sprint finish. A day stuck between arguably some of the toughest stages in all of cycling, because still to come, they will go above 13,000 feet. There's some big stages, some big mountains still to come. And you do feel that the likes of Astana haven't played their hand yet. The team that everybody's been surprised and wondering where they're going to hit the main peloton is the team from Medellin in Colombia. That team includes Aldemar Reyes and Leandro Oyola, Javier Jamaica, Julian Cardona, Vilmar Paredes, Walter Vargas and Victor Ocampo. It's an accomplished group. So Elpis and de Koenig, yep, happy just to set it. Kaha Rural, defenders of the yellow jersey there in the green and the white. So he's starting to think maybe a little bit more tactically now. Jensen Plowright starting to move his way towards the front. Certainly going to be a sprint finish, you would think. So 20 kilometres remaining. Peloton will be probably sitting there at 45, 46 kilometres an hour, depending on what the wind is doing. Start to say goodbye now to Lake Qinghai. Start to move inland a little bit more. Starts to get a bit more of an alpine type feel to it. Start to come into areas where a little bit more of a Mongolian feel. See a lot of farming. It looks more Mediterranean. So Jefferson Cepeda, there we are, 48k an hour, so pace is on. 46, so sitting nicely there, 4th wheel, always a good place to be, out of trouble, getting a nice easy ride. So that's the team holding the yellow in Kaha Rural, doing everything right, and then probably the team that are hoping to win the stage, Elpis and de Koenig, just trying to keep things together for their man, Jensen Plowright, the young Australian, and wasn't he delighted to win that stage, wearing number 14. And he is 24 years of age, born in Melbourne. A couple of stage victories in the New Zealand Cycle Classic. On a stage in the Flanders Tomorrow Tour. And to tell you what, the Australians, boy, there's not too many sports they don't have a point of view in. Still, now we just see Elpis and de Koenig as we just run back down through the peloton. Yeah, beautiful bike rider, beautifully balanced. I think they're more than happy with 3 stages after this, defending that yellow jersey. So dominant in stages 3 and 4 in the mountains, Kaha Rural. They certainly do have climbers. And then the Astana team of Henok Mulubrhan. After the second stage, we wondered whether or not they brought a team of climbers. They were that disappointing. And then, boy, did they step up on day 3. They were simply superb in that third stage. Yeah, wonderful scenery, big open plains, 10,000 feet above sea level. If there's any crosswinds, I've got a little bit of protection here from those trees. So 44.5 kilometres an hour, slide uphill here. Rider from Median deciding to just come down the left-hand side and maybe just stretch the legs a little bit, just put a little bit of a pressure on. Possibly Victor Ocampo, very aggressive rider for Median. And there were the sprint points from earlier. And so just a little bit of niggle still going on, a little bit of disruption. Rider from Burgos. Rider there from Team Corotec. From Median in the black and the white. Just dropping back there, and just a quick repair for the body wrap men's cycling team. It might have been, in fact, China Glory, I think it was. So it was the China Glory Mentec Continental Cycling Team. Of course, they've got riders like Ma Binyan and Willie Schmidt out of South Africa, Reinhard Hanse van Rensburg. And that is Van Rensburg, the man out of South Africa. Just trying to ride his way back up through the vehicles, trying to get himself back on. Use that slipstream and then try and jump to the vehicle in front. Cannot stay there for too long. And it's now come back together, but still certainly a little bit of niggle. Riders still looking to try and see if they can steal the stage, and Burgos now having a bit of an attack. And we also see the team from Marshofse, the Polish team in the red and the black shorts. And it's Astana again who continue to drive and chase. Burgos have already won 2 stages out of the 4, looking to try and maybe steal the 5th. It's an Alpecin de Koenig's best interest to shut it down too, in the blue and the white helmet there, sitting 4th wheel. Of course, they want to try and set it up for Jensen Plowright. And now coming through also VF Bardiani. And it's interesting because they've got Eric Zaninchello, who's capable of winning the stage. So deciding to commit, no plan B at this point. Does anyone look to try and jump across? Or do they just hang him out, make him suffer for a little bit before they do eventually just dance on the pedals a little bit more, allow the momentum of the peloton to suck him up? See if we can just pick up the number. Now a little bit of a downhill stretch here. Okay, so Ricardo Luca, number 62. So 27 years of age. He's won stages in Adriatica. He was 9th on GC in the International Tour of Hellas this year, so he comes in with some good form. He's 5th in the stage in this race last year in the Tour of Qinghai Lake, so he's familiar with it. And now there is some urgency coming. So 15 kilometres to go. Looking to try and bring the race back together. Eritrea by the looks of it, possibly on the front, or Kaha Rural. The defenders of the yellow jersey. It is Burgos and Astana. Looking to try and bridge the gap. Try and jump across and pick up and join Ricardo Luca and have a little breakaway of 3 that can work quite effectively together with just 14.5 kilometres to go. So he is committed. Gutsy performance from him. Just chucking it now down. He will be suffering. You've got to have a head like granite, folks. Bonfires in the legs and starting to have razor blades attacking the lungs. One of New Zealand's most prolific cyclists, a man by the name of Graham Miller, who won the Commonwealth Games back in 1990 and rode all over the world, rode in the very first tour here in Qinghai Lakes back in 2002. I remember sitting down with him and asking him just how much he was suffering in a criterium type format. And he said, your heart rate is so high, you're literally breathing through your eyelids. And what he meant by that is that's you're just looking for any orifice in the body to try and get oxygen into. And after the lungs give up, or after you can't quite get enough in through the nose and the mouth, well, literally through your eyelids. And I thought it was one of the great analogies. It just sums up the sheer pain and suffering that can go on. At some point, I would imagine that Ersanabekum might just want to come to the front here. They've probably got the best sprinter in the field in Jensen Plowright. They're not going to win GC, but wouldn't they love to come away with 2 or 3 stage victories? Of course, the stage win is considered a professional race win. So Ricardo Luca, VF Bardiani, their team captain Manuele Torosi, winning stage 3. And what a performance it was from the Italian, because he had 3 riders from Kaha Rural in the break, 2 from Astana, and he somehow found a way, did the Italian, to ambush all of them and take the stage and move into the yellow jersey. They couldn't hold it yesterday. Maybe they're looking for another stage victory. Just 13 seconds, 9.5 kilometres to go. And here come the Peloton, though. And it is led by Ersanabekum on the front. So under 10 kilometres to go, just this gradual uphill. The finish line, well, I can tell you that the finish line is 10,157 feet above sea level, or 3,095 metres. Gnarly little uphill, just to take a little bit more sting out of the legs. What you'd probably describe for most of these riders as a bit of a power climb. But you can just see the momentum, those 2 forces that work together in the peloton. Those riders at the front pulling the riders behind, the riders at the back pushing the riders at the front. And when they work together and there is intent, very, very hard to stay away. Question is, when they do swallow this man up, Ricardo Luca, does anyone else look to jump? Does anyone else look to try and steal the stage? Looking somewhat splintered. In the distance there is the town of Shihaijin, which will welcome all of these riders. Good crowd already gathering. The sun is out. To be fair, it feels a little warmer than 16 degrees. Now the Median team on the front. try and get into a little bit of a break. Two riders, in fact. Also got a rider there in the white and red colours of TR New Day Hotel, possibly Jonathan Monsalve, the winner of this race back in 2017, possibly Josh Kench, the New Zealander. The red top, black shorts is Marshofsa Sertse, the Belgian team, the Polish team. But still, courage under fire here, Ricardo Luca. He'll look around. He's going to be joined very shortly, possibly by one rider. But your money would suggest by the entire peloton. Straight time trial. Now, there's no plan B. He just needs to put his head down and go and just hope that at some point the peloton at each other as they get closer to the sprint, that it does get just a little bit more disorganized. There is just a little bit of chaos, breakdown in communication. Nice high cadence. There's been a real revolution in technology on the bikes. All disc brakes now gone to the rubber rim brakes. So much wider tyres on the bikes than what was thought, 10 years ago even. Always used to be narrow tyres and high pressure in them. That was always sort of seen to be, well, naturally felt to be the fastest setup. And of course, it's gone the other way now. Wider tyres, less pressure. Almost feels counterintuitive. So 19 to 22 mil. A lot of bike riders in previous decade ago. Now it's anywhere from 23 to 27, even 28 mil tyres. You know, anywhere from even 70, 80, 90 PSI at times versus the 130, 140 PSI air pressure that used to go into tyres. And now we're going to see it all come back together very shortly. Lovely little run downhill here. This will allow just a little bit of relief. 6.3 kilometres to go. Jensen Plowright from Alpecin to Koenig is set to go, folks. Viviani Attila, is he in that group from Team Corotec? David Baldacchini. We do have the likes also of Enrico Zanincello from VF Group Bardiani as well. All have the ability to win the stage. Will somebody else ambush this group and win it? Will it be Henok mulbrhan? Good gutsy effort, 62.2 kilometres an hour. So just a slight downhill here. And this will just be relief for the cyclists. They will start to come in. They will see the town in the distance. It's a little bit of a right-hand turn. Just looking in front of me, no real wind. So it doesn't suggest to me that they're going to turn into a headwind at all. But still 14 seconds out there in front. And here comes the big peloton. Here comes the train. Rapeseed there in the background, the yellow flowers that are famous in this region. Absolutely spectacular. A number of what we call almost nomadic type tribes in this part of the world. Sort of almost a collaboration, sort of a Mongolian Chinese feel, but very much celebrate their culture. The town of Shihaijin, well, very patriotic, very proud of their Chinese heritage. And look at this man, absolutely on a mission. He is just in the biggest chainring on the front, smallest cog at the back. He's chucked it down. He's just pushing a massive gear at the moment, folks. And he is now just trying to break this down. He knows he's got 4 kilometres to go. No point looking over his shoulder. At some point, this peloton might just start looking at each other. The teams might start going, you know what, we're not prepared to lead out just yet. It's like possibly another ride peloton as well. But that peloton is now starting to make some moves, make some effort. Arrowhead formation beginning to form. More riders starting to go off the front. Rider there from Astana, Kazakhstan. Burgos rider. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the Burgos rider is and Okamaika. Such an aggressive bike rider. 3.1 kilometres to go. Can he hang on? History would suggest not. History would suggest the Peloton will just simply have too much momentum and swallow him up. It can be such a cruel sport at times. Now just a slight little uphill to hurt him. Ricardo Luca, look at the heart in the man. What a street fighter. What a warrior. Gutsy performance from him. He will be absolutely locked in the hurt box, folks. It's not a nice place. It's a dark place. If you know how to go there, it's not something that you can learn. I think it's an inherent quality. Heart rate will be through the roof. The legs will be burning. He'll be thinking about form. And look at the contrast of those riders sitting on the back there. 217, Josh Kench out of New Zealand. You've got, in fact, under Okamika there, number 34. So the other rider that went up the road must have been another member of Burgos. I just assumed it was Okamika because he has been so aggressive. And look at the Kaharuru boys in the yellow jersey. They're just sitting back. They're happy just for the sprint to sort itself out. They've done their job today. They've defended that yellow jersey. They might lose maybe a few seconds to Henok mulbrhan or someone like that if they end up winning the stage. But now, starting to get in towards those last 2 kilometres. And here come the Peloton. And you do have to feel for the man from VF Group Bardiani, Ricardo Luca, because he is going to get swallowed up. Jensen Plowright from Alpecin de Koenig will be getting set. As will Timothy DuPont from Tartaletto, who won 2 stages last year. We've got the likes of Attili Viviani, David Baldacchini for Team Corotech, and then Eric Zanoncello for VF Group Bardiani. The pain train is on its way. You cannot describe just how much he is suffering. No point sitting up now. He's just going to continue to ride, put the pressure on the Peloton. And now wonderful shots of this beautiful region of northern China. Stage 5 of the tour of Qinghai Lake, the 23rd edition. It's about to come to a conclusion. Which one of the marquee sprinters will take out this year's stage? Here is the town of Shihaijin. He'll be wishing, he'll be hoping. It can be such a brutal sport. It can be such a cruel sport at times. Look at the heart of the man. What a warrior. What a gutsy performance. Is it too little too late though? Enters the town. Big crowd will wait. Here come the Peloton, the lead out train. The riders who want to try and win the stage. It is Corotech on the front, trying to set it up for David Baldacchini. Valentin Darbelli, number 54, second wheel. $145 from Tartaletto Azorax, Alex Vandenbalk. He's about to be swallowed up. Gutsy, courageous performance from Ricardo Luca. but his day is done. Here we go, folks. Sprint finish. Alpecin de Koenig coming down the left-hand side of the peloton now, looking to try and take control, looking to try and set it up for Jensen Plowright. So Alpecin de Koenig with a lead-out train, one of the few teams that probably have a pure sprinter. Astana there on the right-hand side. The Polish team pulls off the front. Alpecin de Koenig. Jensen Plowright sitting third wheel at the moment. Can David Baldacchini, Eric Zanincello possibly look to try and sit on the outside as well? Look to try and get into the slipstream of the Alpecin de Koenig team and look to try and ambush them. The pace is strong. Starting to go up 60 to 70 kilometres an hour shortly, folks. Good crowd weight. It is still Alpecin de Koenig. Jensen Plowright sits there nicely, set it up beautifully for the Australian. Oh, great lead out from Alpecin de Koenig. Here goes Jensen Plowright, the Australian. He's absolutely hit it. He's hit it hard. He'll pick up a second stage victory. The Australian does it. Alpecin de Koenig, superb, brilliantly led race. Wow, that was good. Patient all day. We talked about it. We said if Jensen Plowright was anywhere in the mix, if he could survive the first part of this stage, he would win his second stage, and he's just done that. That is just world-class riding. That there is textbook, folks. What a performance from the young Australian. And aren't they delighted? Brilliantly ridden. And Sen Leeson, number 12, gets a lot of the congratulations, as does number 15, Ramon Singledam. But really, they just controlled it beautifully. Good effort coming from the Bingold team as well. But you're not going to beat Jensen Plowright. He is just simply too good, too big, too strong, too fast. Just gets launched superbly. And they pick up their second stage victory. Stage 1 in the city of Zinning. And now stage 5 here in Shihaijin. Just look at the effort there. Look at the grimace. Gripping those handlebars. Maximum power. We didn't talk about Plowright other than just identifying him as a potential stage winner all day. Just sat back, rode the storm, relied on his team to do everything right. They came to the front at the right time. They are a World Tour team, and they demonstrated why. Very much a team effort. Look at the emotion, and so should be. It's a tough sport. Some highs and lows. But these are the days that you remind yourself of why you're in it. You've got to learn how to lose to learn how to win. Jensen Plowright, he's had ups and downs throughout his career, but what a year he's having. Second victory. One more look at it. Good performance from the Bengal team, but just not enough. Oh, wonderful scenes, thoroughly deserved. As we look back over the wonderful region of Qinghai, and there's confirming the results. David Persico and Alexander Solby, they were simply superb, finishing second and third for the Bengal team, but it was all gents and Plowright. Viviani from Corachek, one of the better sprinters too, having to settle for 11th, defending champion of this tour. Henok Mulbrhan finishing in 12th. Great to see Erdenbut, the champion of Mongolia, also inside the top 20. As we go back and reflect on another remarkable stage here in the 23rd edition of the Tour of Qinghai Lake.